Great. All right. Just give me a second to share, everybody. All right. View slideshow. Wonderful. Well, first of all, thank you everybody for being with us today on The Real Truth About Health. My presentation is about toxins in our food supply and what we can do. Now, many of you might be already aware that there are GMOs in our food supply. Up to 85% of packaged foods in the United States contain GMOs, including the most prevalent are canola oils, and corn and soy and sugar products. Up to any 85% or 100 to 100% of these main commodity crops are GMO grown in the USA. And I'll get into that, telling you what that means more. Predominantly, that means they're genetically engineered to have certain traits that we want to have. That's and some of them are things like alfalfa, papaya, crooked neck squash, banana, potatoes, not as prevalent. Apples, the apples are made to not brown, but they're all unlabeled in the grocery stores. The most prevalent one are GMOs that are engineered to withstand pesticides. To contain pesticides. So when you eat that corn, the pesticide is built right in. That way, when a bug eats the corn, its stomach will explode because of the pesticide built right into the corn. Unfortunately, that can also cause problems with humans as well, and animals that predominantly eat that GMO corn. It's also used for ethanol. But the most common GMOs are GMOs that are genetically engineered to withstand herbicides, as you see being sprayed right now. This is predominantly GMO soy and other crops that are genetically engineered to withstand glyphosate, the toxic a chemical ingredient in Roundup. There are many toxins in Roundup, but glyphosate is one of them. So 80% of GMOs are engineered to withstand glyphosate. And glyphosate is also sprayed as a drying agent on non-GMO, non-organic food. And we'll get into that. Now, glyphosate is the active chemical ingredient in what is known as Roundup or Ranger Pro. And you should know these three things, three things about glyphosate. In order to understand why we're focused on it so much, why it's so harmful, and why it's connected to over 40 different Western diseases right now. Number one, it's a patented antimicrobial. It destroys beneficial gut bacteria and promotes the pathogenic gut bacteria. And what that means is that when it's destroying your when it's destroying your beneficial gut bacteria, it's destroying the stronghold of your immune system, and it's also destroying your body's capability to make hormones, and to make available certain compounds to your body that are crucial for how your body functions. For instance, melatonin and serotonin are stored in your gut, and so if you are destroying your body's ability to make them, you're not going to be able to sleep well. You may have being less satiated, meaning you're not as content. So you may eat more, watch more porn, gamble more, drink more alcohol. You may, you don't have that ability to feel satiated as you would had you had beneficial gut bacteria in your gut. So it impacts many different aspects of your body by impacting your gut bacteria. Of course, it's also the stronghold of your immune system, and pretty much all disease starts in the gut, according to Hippocrates. So it is a very, very bad idea for us to be eating food that destroys our beneficial gut bacteria. For us to be eating chemicals that destroy our beneficial gut bacteria. Number two, it's a chelator. And I'm going to say a little bit more about this in a minute, but basically what a chelator means is that glyphosate holds or makes unavailable the vital nutrients of any living thing it touches, causing dysfunction and DNA mutations, because without those vital nutrients, your DNA and your body functions don't work properly. Okay. And I'll say more about chelation in just a second. Glyphosate is also defined by the EPA on the fact sheet as a reproductive effector. That means it impacts our endocrine system, our entire hormonal system. It can cause thyroid damage. It has been proven to damage sperm in 4 different ways: form, functioning, mobility, and quantity. It's basically making men sterile, and it does cause liver disease. Glyphosate has been proven to cause liver disease at very low levels. and cause kidney damage as well. And by reproductive effector, it's been shown to cause reproductive damage in females and in males. Now, here's where I want to talk a little bit more about chelating and why this chelating issue is such a big deal. So Mathilde Tissier, an evolutionary biologist at the University of Strasbourg, studied a rapidly declining population of hamsters living in a monocrop field where pesticides were sprayed on a cornfield. They said monocrop, that means GMO, folks, and that like would 99.999% chance mean GMO monocrop sprayed with glyphosate, right? We don't have proof, but this is what we're asserting. When that was duplicated in a lab, he discovered that the hamster mothers developed cannibalistic behaviors, and they were severely deficient in vitamin B3, this one particular vitamin and its precursor tryptophan. When the hamsters were administered vitamin B3, the cannibalism stopped. So what I have to ask is, what if the toxins in our food supply and the subsequent lack of vitamins and minerals that are essential for our brain's development, for making good decisions, are one of the primary contributing factors to violence and mass shootings in America? Who's studying that? That's what I want to know. Who is testing all of these serial killers and parolees and criminals for? It's a simple blood test, folks. Do they have proper levels of vitamin B3? And now I'm not saying I would give them a pass for doing what they're doing if they're low in vitamins and minerals. But if our food supply isn't supplying the appropriate vitamins and minerals because glyphosate is chelating them out, we've got to take a look at that and not just look at making more laws, and putting more people in prison. We've got to look at what are we actually feeding people in America that might be contributing to violence. Clearly, with these hamsters, administering one vitamin changed, altered, halted, stopped their violent behavior completely. So what did we do? We said, we've got to test, and we've got to take matters into our own hands. And we did that. Moms Across America initiated the first glyphosate testing in America. I believe this was about 9 years ago now, because we believe testing is one of the most important actions to raise awareness about agrochemicals in our food supply. And what we found back then, just in case you're not aware of these results, we want to recap them, was that in our drinking water, glyphosate was found 3 times higher than what's allowed in Europe. And this was just from about 40 different tests that people sent in on their own dime. They paid for it themselves to get their water tested. We also found that there was much higher levels of glyphosate in our children. College student had 18.8 parts per billion. Just so you know, farmers usually have around 9 parts per billion. She had twice that amount. My son had 8.7 parts per billion, which is that akin to a farmer. And that particular son, at that time, he was the only one of my 3 sons that had glyphosate present in his urine. And what I figured out was that he was eating wheat sprayed with glyphosate as a drying agent. My other 2 children had presented with gluten intolerances, so they were eating gluten-free. And he was the only one eating gluten. So that was the only difference in their diet. And we know now that glyphosate is sprayed on wheat as a drying agent before harvest, along with peas, beans, legumes, sugar, all kinds of oats, all kinds of grains. And it does not wash, dry, or cook off, folks. It ends up on our food, we eat it, and then it ends up in our children's urine, and it ends up contributing to major health issues. In fact, in my son at that time, he had a sudden onset of autism symptoms. And when we went 100% organic and we treated his gut, because he had gut dysbiosis, he had C. diff, all kinds of bacterial problems that his doctor tested him for. And when we went 100% organic and we took care of his gut, we gave him sauerkraut and colloidal silver and MSM-MRM that helps coat the gut lining. And he had no sugar from Thanksgiving until New Year's, no sugar. Even Santa Claus didn't bring sugar in his stocking. And because sugar feeds the bad gut bacteria. When we did that, he was then able to recover. We tested him 6 weeks later, and there was no glyphosate and no detectable glyphosate in his urine, and his autism symptoms were gone.